If you're feeling pressure to make something happen in your life or in your business right now, I want you to slow down. Sometimes our biggest delays come from trying to shortcut God's promise. Like you prayed about it, you told him you were going to hand it over to him, and then when it takes longer than you thought, or longer than you thought it was going to take, and longer than you think it should take, and now you are off kilter. All right, and now my iPad with my notes on it just died. So let me see if I can pull them up on my phone. See, the devil knows that I'm out here doing the good work, and now he made my iPad die because I made sure I had enough juice at least to do this live. All right, so let me get over to my Google Docs with my notes on it and tell the devil to back up, that no matter what he does, I will still come out on top, because I don't let things like this take me over the top. That's a lesson right there. All right, there we go. Get thee behind me, devil. I have my notes up on my phone now. They're kind of small and I'm kind of old, but we're going to make it work. All right, so if you pray to God for something and you said that you were going to put it in his hands, and then you get antsy and you start trying to pull it back, that's where the issue comes in, okay? I want you to start thinking about this as I'm talking about it. Have you ever moved too quickly on something and you found that it cost you later? That's the conversation I want to have. Now, if you're willing to admit that, I want you to go ahead and drop a me in the chat. All right, so let's talk about, in the Bible, let's talk about Abraham. We're going to talk about Sarah and Hagar. All right. So God promised Abraham a son. You may know the story. He promised Abraham a son. You know, for males, having a son is a legacy. Okay. He wanted a son so bad, so he promised him a son. Years and years and years passes. There's no baby. Years and years and years more passes. There's no baby. And so Sarah, in her Sarah ways, she starts questioning God's promise. Don't do that. Don't do that. She starts questioning God's promise and her place in his promise. That's what I want you to think about. Have you ever come to the point in your journey in life or business that you're questioning God's promise because he's not moving at the speed and in the way that you had envisioned? And then we find ourselves getting upset at something that he didn't promise us in that way. You're mad at a vision that you saw for how the promise was going to unfold, but he never said that. He promised the end result. But in your mind, can we just be honest? Sometimes in your mind, you're looking at the end result, but you want him to do it in the way that you want him to do it. And if he's not doing it in the way that you want him to do it, then you digest that as he's taking too long, and then you try to take back the power and do it your own way, and that's not the way it works. Even if you end up at the same place, it's not going to be the promise that was promised. Okay, y'all are getting me off kilter here. All right, so what happened with this story? So Sarah questions God's promise. She questions her place in it, and she suggests, now, why do we do this as women? Y'all just help me out here. Why do we do this as women? We don't have long to unpack this because I'm teaching an online workshop in 20 minutes on how to become a coach, okay? If you want to join me there, go to impactfullandpaidcoachworkshop.com. That's in 20 minutes. But why do we do this as women? What do? We try to finagle. So she suggests that Abraham sleeps with a servant, Hagar, right? This was culture approved, but it wasn't God approved. Hagar gets pregnant with Ishmael, but it creates tension, it creates jealousy, and y'all already know it creates heartbreak. You already knew that. You should have known that when she should have known that, right? Eventually, here comes Isaac, the promised child, but the weight and the consequences of how it all went down, it lingered for generations, which is the issue. So I need you to understand that when you're rushing God's promise, not only will it not end up the way you wanted it to, but how about if it's affecting generations in the long run? We have to come to the point where we begin to make decisions, not just for us, not even just for our household, if I'm being honest, but it's for the generations that come behind us. The issue is that they got tired of waiting, so they took matters into their own hands, and it worked, but it wasn't the promise. So I need you to know you can produce results, but it will not be the promise. So do you want to get it sooner? Not exactly the way you want it and not the promise, or do you want to wait on God? Okay. This is what I want to share with you. This is what I see so much in the entrepreneur world. You guys know I coach coaches. I see this so much in the entrepreneur world. We get a vision of something, and when it doesn't pop off, like Keisha's popped off, or like Bruce's popped off, or like Terry's popped off, or like Sally's popped off, or like Keith's if it doesn't pop off the way that you had in mind, we try to help God out. The issue is God doesn't need our help. Have you ever been the one that said, well, let me just, God doesn't need our help. That could be launching a program too early. That could be partnering with the wrong person. That could be, I see this one a lot. You're not getting any sales for your program, so you discount the price. Have you ever done that? You're not getting any sales, so you say, well, let me make it lower, right? That's not the way that works. Also, copying someone else's model of what they're doing because yours isn't working. When God told you how to do it, he told you when to do it. He made the promise to you. You just didn't know the exact path, and so you started doing it your own way. I want you to be the person that starts doing things according to his will. Okay? Here's the takeaways, because I got to go, because I have a class that I'm teaching in just a minute. Here's 4 takeaways I want to give you. Obedience without patience is disobedience. Obedience without patience is disobedience. Number 2, when you try to force the promise, you still get a result, but it's not the reward that you would have gotten had you waited and done it in his time and on his way. Number 3, God's silence does not mean it's time for you to take over and time for you to move. Sometimes it just means for you to stay ready. Number 4, oh gosh, this is so good, you guys. Every door that opens is not divine. Every door that opens is not divine. You have to begin to tap into and begin to use your discerning spirit. So this is what I want you to ask yourself. If you know that you have forced things before, are you willing to wait next time? Are you willing to lean in? Are you willing to have more patience and more long suffering? Okay. All right. So God did not change his mind about his promise. He didn't. Maybe he's seeing if you'll be patient enough to trust the promise that he gave. As we close out, this is what I want to share with you. If you've ever been the person to move ahead of God's timing, or you tried to force something that fully didn't align, type down in the chat, I'm now trusting the process. I'm now trusting the process. All right, you guys, that was part 2 of a 3-part series on You're Not Behind, You're Being Built. I'll see you on Friday.